Is it possible to build a geocentric solar system, and indeed universe, that matches our observations? It would take a leap, wouldn't it? But here's the leap to make from the double slit experiment. You're looking at the double slit experiment. The answer is you're looking at it wrong and they're lying. So you've got two obstacles to overcome. Let's put the lies aside and we'll just unpick those later. You're looking at it wrong. When we look out at our universe, at our solar system, we see round entities, planets, orbiting a round sun. Here's an assumption. It's a distortion of the reality. Our observational powers, both visual and measurement, are via a sphere. Imagine that you're inside a sphere, a bubble, and that the effect of this bubble is that it turns everything inside out and scrambles an image, and that it's your brain that then unscrambles the image and turns it into round spheres, when in fact you're seeing hemispheres, layers of hemispheres, distances apart, all rotating on different vector axes. This is the key. Strong force, universe, sphere, 10 to the 42, pi times 10 to the 42 meters wide, spinning about its equator. Spins at velocity c, terminal velocity, but nonetheless not a constant value because it's based on its size and mass, etc., etc. But it hits the velocity c, light. At that point, it starts to rotate. The moment it even tries to start to rotate, it puts a force at the center of the fixed point, as described by Leve's fixed points and Euler's fixed points. It's the point of unity between the two theories. At that point, there will be massive friction as these two axes try to sort themselves out, because they can't overlap, they can't cross. They must have if they're going about the same fixed point, then that bearing must be fluid, or they don't cross over each other. So orbital force from this spin is created. This is the weak force, orbital force. That creates friction, heat, change, matter. All is created at that center fixed point by this massive friction that's there, and the fluid bearing occurs, and so rotation can now occur. So imagine that it's the center of the planet, and now we've heated to an austenitic solid solution. It's fluid, but it's solid, but it's able to move. Right, at last starts to turn. As soon as now this orbital force can move this solid solution, another axis is created. Because the electromagnetic force is created inside our 0 point, one of the effects of this friction is the electromagnetic fields detail, but it's there. So this force is created a space inside the center point of where all the action is. It's the size of the time particle, h dimension, measured in a second, 6.6 times 10 to the minus 34 seconds duration, turn, exists for. At the center of that now, this field is created. There's a space, inside that space, a vacuum. And you get meters to the minus cubed over seconds squared. And the meters to the minus, that creates a bending moment. But a vacuum is created, you see, at the center by the electromagnetic force. A space is created there for motion to take place. And so then you get the equatorial wave, the yin-yang shape, as described by Leve, spinning round and round with different pressure top and bottom. And it's the only time that mass energy is greater than the second energy, because it's negative, it's a vacuum. That sets up the whirlpool pattern. Now we've got superfluid. Yeah, we're going to have critical flows now going on in here, not just a turbulent flow, critical flow, laminar flow, critical speeds, laminar flow, straight lines are created within this, the velocity that's created, because go back to the strong force at c, that sets its speed. It can go as fast as c now. There's nothing to stop it. It's become frictionless, relatively. That sets the little tiny engine that's running now, the c² engine. Unstable. You can see why. So much action going on in here with this wave, and it's tiny. It takes very, very little to upset that. But it can't turn on its y-axis. Okay? The universal y-axis cannot turn on it. That's to the North Star. That's planet to North Star, y-axis. So it's going to be off that. And at 137 arc seconds, this is where it was built from. So our main vector axis is that 137 arc second from the y, creating a bending force against it. Now what happens in that bending force is different layers build up with different gravities and different times. It's time zones. Everything that exists now exists. This idea of things light years ago is wrong. You're not seeing the past, you're seeing the present. It's distance away. So here's my solar system now. I'm going to build it, geocentric. There's my time particle in the center. I've just constructed it. It's that 3-axis with the 2-axis building. It's the YZ axis. It's the key one. It's the Y of the Z axis, and that builds up into the planetary layers that we see, and they're distance away, and they've got different light because of the gravity that's within them. But we're seeing a hemisphere. You're looking at the back of the hemisphere, I'm looking at the front of it, and it looks round because of the way that we see it and our brain works and what we've been told. So, but the lies don't help, do you? About the moon landings and stuff like this. We need to know the truth here about what's we're actually looking at, so we can understand what's happening, whatever it is. Come out to the sun. Go out to the sun. The sun then is the edge of c², and that's where the light is. It is a bowl of light that holds us all. We all sit inside this, layers of the gobstopper. It's a hemisphere, sun, created right at the edge of the lip. And so go back to the yin yang and see the yin yang swims around once in that time. That translates via the changes in the time zones through the gravity to the edge of the solar system, where the infinite exists. And so that's the infinite is the sun in our case. It's the edge of the energy. It's as far as the light can travel in that tiny space of time. Infinite speed. See? And now that sets the inside. So now that sets the lip. Picture the yin yang, and it's got light in there now. Vacuum, pressure, light is underneath. Space above, vacuum, light underneath. They're the same place. The lip of the yin yang, as it runs around, as the trough, the crest becomes a trough. There's a lip at the circumference itself. There's a gap, hole, and light gets out. And when you translate that in that distance, it takes a year to go round. Us. And so it's relativity. It's really key. There are really only two vectors that really matter: clockwise and anti-clockwise. And it's the same whichever one is moving. They can both be moving. One could be moving, the other one could be moving. But there's a key difference to notice. The clockwise is a tick. And this is this is what quantizing really means. Quantizing that they talk about is matrix calculus. It means you've made an assumption so you can analyze action with matrix calculus. But what quantizing actually is the motion of time that Planck originally described. But he got it the wrong way around. But he still found the truth. So the anti-clockwise is continuous. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. It's the 137 shift in each of those tiny durations of 6 times 10 to the minus 34 seconds. So there's the quantizing of time. Just time. Everything else is a continuum. And that you use matrix calculus, inverted commas quantizing, to analyse the action. Now, are you convinced? Galileo was right, but he was wrong. Euler was right. He just didn't have matrix calculus was not available in the form that he hadn't developed to that stage, and he couldn't see it. Optics hadn't developed, but he gave us the meter standard. So Euler's work, he knew where it was going. He was going to solve reality. It was the rigid body problem. He knew it was going to get solved, so he gave us the meter standard so that we would be able to track our skills on based on what the gifts he'd given us, which is a plenty. By removing it in 1983, it broke the link. So we can't trace it anymore. But we can. We're just going to put it back and then reset everything to that standard, and then we can see what's actually going on. So the Euler standard, the Euler meter standard, is the one that I want to replace, to put back where it belongs, in the center of the geocentric universe. That makes sense. That does explain observations, not just the ones I've just described to you, but also the ones science suddenly doesn't know. The James Webb Telescope. If you haven't noticed how much pain they're in, and you haven't been paying attention, they are really screwed. The Big Bang is wrong. End of story. Here's a new one. It is a Big Bang. It's in the future. It never happens. It's the power of an explosion so massive that the time that it creates first develops its own infrastructure of decay before the explosion arrives. And it's in the maintenance of this matter that controls the power of the Big Bang not happening. So Galileo was wrong and Lewy was right. Lewy 1915. So science already knows the answer. In 1914, Johannes Stein's paper, Matrix Calculus and Relativity, it's in black and white. It's a really good paper, really well written. Yeah, I've only done the introduction, but it makes much more sense than Lewy. You read Lewy, it's chaos, but I understand it. I knew it before I even translated it, because I understood the pictures and the concepts, and I knew what he was trying to say, or try not to say in this case, because it's been excised from there. Trust me. They know this. They know this. And if you've heard stories about information about species that control us and and they don't want us to find information, damn right, it's this information. Let's see who's controlling us, and it's going to be us. Get ready for the future. We're about to meet them. They're going to meet the ancestors. Welcome to New Earth.